Hello, everybody. So, Mike, you ready to do the mandala offering for us?
Yeah, let me get the mandala pulled up. I'm still working on memorization. All right. Ready?
Go for it.
Tashi Puki Jukshin Metok Chum Rirab Lingshi Ninde Gimpadi Sange Shindu Mikte Uwargi Jokun Namdak Shingla Chupar Shok Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami.
Right. And let me do the more musical version for you. Sashi Puki Jukshin Metok Tram Rirab Lingshi Ninde Gimpadi Sange Shindu Mikte Owargi Drokun Namdak Shingwa Chuparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayame. We'll do the refuge in Tibetan for one. Sange Chudang Zoki Chokdama Chanchu Bardu Dakni Kyatsuchi Daki Jinyen Kipe Sunam Ki Drola Pincher Sange Drupar Sho Sange Chudang Zoki Chognama Chanchu Bardu Dakni Kyatsuchi Daki Jinso Kipe Sunam Ki Drola Pincher Sange Drupar Sho Sange Chudang Zoki Chognama Chanchu Bardu Daki Kyatsuchi Daki Jinyen Kipe Sunam Ki Drola Pincher Sange Drupar Sho. Okay. So we've been talking a lot about bodhicitta, what bodhicitta is. And now the question is, how do we develop bodhicitta? It sounds like you just do it. But really to develop bodhicitta, there are two distinct methods that are taught. And one we do now, and the other we'll do in the death meditation, which reminds me, Svetlana's trying to get together a list of who would like to do the death meditation weekend with me. So if you're interested, it'll be in the next, probably the end of this month, maybe the beginning of September. Probably going to teach it as one weekend. So that would mean a Friday night. Well, we could do it in 2 weekends, but it would mean a class Friday night, and 3 classes on Saturday, and 2 classes on Sunday. So I'm willing to get up at whatever hour it needs to be to make it reasonable for all of you. So I think we're talking Moscow time or Europe time in Central Europe. So I apologize for the students in Mexico that are going to have to get up at the same ungodly hour I am. But so please get a hold of Svetlana and let me know. Let her know maybe make a decision by Tuesday next week, and we can organize a time. I think you'll really enjoy it. It was eye-opening for me and was critical for my approach to my illness. So that's my ad for the death meditation. So how did we develop bodhicitta? Lord Buddha taught two methods. First method is called exchanging self for others. And at first blush, that's a tough one to do. It's meditation that was taught by Master Shantideva to train ourselves to imagine being inside the mind of another being and imagine what they want and then do what would make them happy. Essentially reversing our selfishness by turning it toward others, making others' happiness more important than ours. So when I say get inside the mind, I'm not looking at someone, I'm in your mind looking out through your eyes in the literal sense. What I'm trying to do is see what opinion they might have about what's going on. To the fact that they could be different, their opinion could be different than mine, and that's okay. So that's exchanging self for others. And we do that. It's a really sweet meditation for doing that in the death meditation module. To really know what another person requires, wants, requires, needs, requires omniscience, which we cannot have until we reach Buddhahood. But we can try. And that's the whole point of exchanging self and others. The wish to do so, to exchange self for others, the willingness to do so, whatever you need, you're capable of doing to serve another over your own desires. This is what will ripen the future, is the ability to really do it. If you really do this well, you begin to forget about yourself entirely. Now, that doesn't mean you disappear. We're not saying that. We're not saying that you don't have your own thoughts and feelings. What we're saying is, when you think of exchanging self and others, you're just trying to understand what another person's thought process is and how you can help help them. Now, for me, I don't particularly care for former President Trump. It scares me what he's trying to do to this country. But if I was exchanging myself and other with him, I would be trying to see that he genuinely thinks, does he genuinely think what he's talking about with the fake election and all this? And if he doesn't, what can I do about that? Instead of chastising him and thinking ill will of him, what do I need to do to cause him to change his mind? He's my projection. In my past lives, I've done something to generate Donald Trump. So what do I need to do to change that? And that would be part of exchanging self for others. It's not simple. It can be very pleasant. To the beginner, it can be quite frightening. So we have to be careful. So that's why Geshe Michael didn't teach that first. Instead, he taught a 7-point cause and effect. 7-part instruction on cause and effect. It really has 8 parts, but the first part is a preliminary. So we're going to go through them several times now, because this is what I want you to do your meditation on between now and next Tuesday. So it's called the 7-part step, cause and effect. But as I said earlier, there are 8 parts. So first one, equanimity. Regard all beings the same without bias. This is pretty hard. We naturally like some people and dislike others. And are really pretty much neutral to most people. So you want to treat all beings the same without bias. So I would say to have a neutral approach to everybody, and that you don't have an opinion about them. Not neutral and that you don't want to help them. So when I really get good at this, my approach to former President Trump would be to not have an opinion, to see him as a suffering person that I need to help stop his suffering. It's natural that we like some people and dislike others, but this is somewhat ridiculous because since beginningless time, we have been everything to everybody. That's kind of a hard thing to accept. And I still struggle with that. Because the next step is the one actually I have the most problem with. So step one, so we have equanimity, the 0 point, the starting point. Then we have step one, which is Marche in Tibetan. See every being, all beings as your mother. How can I see all beings as my mother? I've only had the one mother in this life. To even consider this step, we must already accept that our minds have had infinite number of past lives. So there are an infinite number of mothers. So why would I see all beings as my mother? That I struggle with. I don't debate that I've had infinite numbers of mothers. I just have trouble seeing all beings as my mother. It's a contradiction that I put on the back burner. I know what this is meaning. This means I need to treat all beings as if they were my mother. Now, what does that mean? I was in a class when my lovely wife and I first decided to try and look into the Buddhist practice. We found out that His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama was coming to Tucson, which was amazing. We couldn't believe it. So we took a course from one of his students that would happen to be a pastor at, was he a pastor, a priest of some kind on the campus, university campus here. So he took a course to prepare us for his visit. And part of the course was this practice of the 7-step cause and effect. And we had about 10 students in the course. One of them was a very good friend. And when the teacher got to mention that you needed to see all beings as your mother, this one student got very agitated and almost left the class because her mother had been abusive to her. So to see all beings as your mother was not something she couldn't even see, didn't even like her mother. So that brought to me an interesting realization. Nothing profound, but my mother, my parents, well, how can I put this? Would I want to see all beings as my mom in this life? Yes. My parents had a somewhat, I guess for want of a better term, a tough love. We were stumps. My parents were academic. We were to get good grades. We were to study. It was expected of us to do well. So when we did well, that was the expectation. So no big deal. Now, on the other hand, my lovely wife's parents would celebrate things going well. When I got good grades, graduated with highest honors from the university, it was a big deal to them. To my parents, it was, so that's what we expect of you. It didn't mean they didn't love me. It meant they loved me in a different way. And that's part of the story here. Don't immediately reject the love of a parent or someone, a close friend, just because it's not what you expect. Put yourself in their shoes and see what they're thinking should be happening. So, see all beings as your mother. I look at this in another context, and this one I'm more comfortable with. And so I don't know if it's the better way of looking at it. But I see as my parents were my teachers. They taught me how to behave, how to treat others, how to eat properly, how to dress properly, how to be responsible to others, how to drive. All the little things that we take for granted, they taught me, and they taught me well. I always say my parents we had 5 kids in our family. My parents brought up 5 responsible US citizens. We all had good jobs. We all thought of others ahead of ourselves. So to me, treating others as my mother, to me means seeing every being I meet as my teacher. Now, I'm not saying they're Geshe Michael. He's a special teacher on a different level. What I'm saying is I can always learn something from somebody. Not that I can always do that. I want to do that. I want to see what these other people in my life are teaching me. So I encourage you to look at that. What's that person that cut you off in traffic teaching you? What's that person on a cell phone while they're driving teaching you? What's that clerk at the grocery store teaching you as she takes all your groceries, counts it up, and totals it up? You could answer that, well, not teaching me anything. What can a clerk, checkout lady at a grocery store teach me? Well, I would offer that the fact that she or he says, hi, how are you doing? How's your day going? And starts checking out your groceries. Could be silence and just doing it. So he is teaching me to be pleasant to other people, to genuinely try and find out if they're happy. You do that with everybody that you meet during the day. It's quite a practice. I really enjoy it. Okay, so see all beings as your mother. So remember their kindness. This is where that one friend of ours had trouble because her mother wasn't kind to her, single mom, and treated her terribly. I don't know if she was physically abused, but Inga did not have positive things to say about her mother. Remember the kindness. So I'm not referring to if you like your mother or not. Recognize the sacrifices she went through. My mom had, let's see, how'd that work? My oldest sister's born in 48. My brother is born in 54. So in 6 years, my mom had 5 kids. I can't even begin to think what that must have been like. Pregnant for 6 years, 6 years. Basically pregnant for 6 years. I was born in May of 1953. So let's see, 9 months before that, and then 5. So in September, is that right? September of 52. And my sister was born in, oh my God, in March of 52. So my mom had my sister in March of 52 and got pregnant in September of 52 and had me in May of 53. I can't conceive of that. So what am I remembering the kindness of my mother? Well, she had to carry me yet again after having my 3 sisters. So here's another baby. She had to not drink alcohol back then. She wasn't particularly didn't particularly drink a lot of alcohol, but she had to be careful what she ate. She had to be careful what she did. And she had 3 young daughters to take care of, and a husband, and a dog and a cat. I bow down to any mother that I've ever taught. Extraordinary. Every thought was for your well-being. I was remembering the kindness, even if they didn't express their love. This isn't about how they express their love. This is the kindness of carrying me for 9 months. All the unpleasantness, the morning sickness, the physical attributes of having to walk around with even more weight as I grew. I'm 6'3", so I'm sure I was a fairly good sized baby. But so I want next step. So first step is see all beings as your mother. The second step is remembering the kindness of your mother. The third step is repaying their kindness. So once you recognize how kind your past mothers have been, you generate the wish to repay them. Now, I guess I'll use an example of the extent that if your mother fell into a bed of hot gold, you would immediately go and help her. You wouldn't stand around waiting for someone else to help her. We must reach the point where we feel this way to every being we see. I think to repay their kindness also means there's tradition in many cultures, not in the United States, which is sad, but in many cultures, the parents have a reasonable expectation or a cultural expectation that their children will take care of them. And usually it falls upon the eldest son. In the Malaysian culture, the Asian, as I understand it, I could be wrong, but I think this is the way it goes. The eldest son is going to take care of the parents when they get old and can't be on their own. They come and live with the eldest son. That to me is repay their kindness. So when my mom and dad were getting older, I would try and visit. When I visited, I would see what they needed done around the house. Instead of just coming and relaxing and expecting my mom to cook 3 wonderful meals and entertain me, I'd go visit and I'd say, what can I do around the house? Do you need any gardening done? Do you need anything repaired? What can I do? Now that seems to be a pretty mundane repaying their kindness. But it was one way I could not treat. Well, I guess I could say treat. As one way I could repay their kindness because they did these kind of things for me. Another way to repay their kindness over the years was to do well in school. Even though they may not have shown it to me that I was repaying their kindness, they provided the opportunity for me to go to school, had a conducive environment for me to study, encouraged me to study. I would put off doing my homework until the very last minute and do it just well enough to get a reasonable grade. My whole goal in high school, junior high and high school, was to play basketball. And to play basketball, I needed to get nothing below a C in school. And there was one class that I did miserably in, and that was French. I just did not understand the French language, but I had to get at least a C. So for 4 years of taking French, the rest of the kids in the class had to put up with what I did for extra credit. we had gone to Europe for a year when I was, how old was I? 8 years old. And so I had a ton of slides from all over Europe. So my French teacher every year would let me do it. Actually, it'd be every year would let me do a slide presentation for extra credit as long as I spoke French doing it. And that would get me the C that I needed in order to play basketball. I'm not sure why I got off on that subject, but I did. Okay, repay their kindness. Number 4, love. The obsession to give others what will make them happy, conventionally and ultimately. This is the attraction that a mother has for her own child. It's a powerful force, and emotion is incredibly strong. Once you've developed this conviction that all beings have been your mothers and nurtured you and protected you, you want to repay that kindness by giving them happiness. So what is love? Why is love different than compassion? Love is giving others happiness. Compassion is taking away their suffering. So that seems kind of circular. But I always use the example of my lovely wife. She gets migraine headaches, terrible migraine headaches. So to make her happy, I need to do something that'll make her happy is not what she needs right then. What I need to do is show compassion and take away her suffering. Once I do that, I can think about making her happy. So one way to make her happy is to serve her ice cream. That makes me happy. In fact, we're going to have ice cream this afternoon as part of a little get together in our community. Yay. So she has a headache. So what can I do, dear, to help with your headache? Well, she likes a hot compress. That helps, or a cold compress, depending on which kind of headache she has. So I make sure that she has them when she needs them. She usually just wants to be left alone. So I leave her alone. I show compassion first and then love second. You have to be aware of the situation, because if I gave her ice cream, she'd throw it up. So that's hardly making her happy. It's not taking away her suffering. So you got to think about it. So step 4 is love. Step 5 is compassion. What is compassion? Removing others' suffering. Why doesn't compassion become before love? Well, I would say it. Why doesn't it come before love in this particular list? I'm not quite sure why that's true. That's interesting. I would have it the other way around. Well, that's all right. You realize you can't give them true compassion if you're not worried about making them happy. So in order to make my wife happy and give her ice cream, that's my first thought. So that's step 4. Then step 5, I need to figure out how to take away the suffering that's going to prevent her from being happy. There are 2 kinds of great compassion: to want other people to be separated from their suffering. The other is to want to be the one that helps them even if no one else will. So that leads us to step 6, Laksam Namdak, universal responsibility. I will take on the responsibility of freeing all beings from suffering, even if no one else helps me. This is a pretty big step. And this is a step you have to think about carefully. Or as I did, you just jump in with both feet and hope that you can swim. When Diamond Mountain began back in, oh golly, what was it? 2001, 2002. I'm a trained biochemist. I'm a trained scientist. That's what I do reasonably well. So I was at Diamond Mountain, and Geshe Michael was talking to a group of us and said he needed someone to put in a water system for the cabin. So I immediately volunteered because it seemed like something I'd have fun doing. But I knew nothing about putting in a water system. But I wanted to take on the responsibility of building a water system that would allow people to do 3-year retreat safely and comfortably. So I took on the responsibility of doing it, even if no one else would help me, because none of the other people were engineers or had any idea of how to do this. So I just said, I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it right. I'm going to do it on time and on schedule and with cost. All this I decided to do because I wanted to take the responsibility to do this for Geshe Michael and Lama Christie. If no one else would help me, I would do it. Now, it doesn't seem like much, maybe, but when you have to put in several miles of water line, and each cabin has to have pure, clean drinking water that meets state regulation, it's a pretty big task. $100,000 budget, and all the rules and regulations that came with it. I was entrusted with, if I didn't build this correctly, the 3-year retreat wasn't going to happen properly. So that was a huge responsibility. But the point of discussing that is I took it on because that's part of this 7-step cause and effect. I knew that was what was going to get me where I wanted to go in my practice. It was an incredible opportunity to serve my lamas and to serve all the other students that were going to do 3-year retreat. So I took it very seriously. And after I volunteered, I thought, what did I get myself into? And then I remembered one of my students' fathers was a hydrologist at the university. And I could go into that story in great detail. I won't for today. But I had the help. I realized I had the help I needed to design it and do it properly. And my ego didn't get in the way. I needed the help of others, and I asked for it and I received it. Now, step number 7, you do all that. You quickly realize it's human life. You cannot really help others in an ultimate way. So you decide you must reach total enlightenment so you can help them. So let's go back through the 7 steps or the 8 steps. The first step is to see all beings as the first step is equanimity. Treat all beings the same. No favorites. That's if you can't do that, if you can't see all beings as equal, then the next 7 steps aren't going to be of any value. The challenge is how to put this into your practice in your life. And we'll go through that in a little bit. So equanimity, then seeing all beings as your mother, and I see them as my teachers. That's how I think of it. That's what works for me. Then you want to repay the kindness excuse me, you see all beings as your mother. And number two, you remember the kindness. And number three, you want to repay their kindness. Number four, you want to demonstrate the love for them that you, like they have for a child. The analogy is the love a mother has for a child. Now, this actually brings up an important subject. For me, this sevenfold cause and effect, I would substitute mother for parents. That's just me. I'm not saying that's what the scripture says, because it isn't. But my father had a lot to do with bringing me up. And so I would say, I would substitute instead of mother, I'd say parents. But so you want to make your mother happy, or your parents happy, or someone else happy. And to make them happy, you have to consider how they're suffering, so that you can try and solve the suffering issue before you worry about the love. Number 5, there's love. Number 4 is love. Number 5 is compassion. Number 6 is doing it yourself, taking on a task and doing it yourself, asking for help, but not being discouraged if you can't get it. And 7, you realize you must reach the mind of a Buddha. You must become fully enlightened, totally enlightened, in order to do any of the steps really powerfully. So this results, doing the sevenfold cause and effects reaches the end, and you realize that bodhicitta is what you need and what you have to strive for and what you have to practice for the rest of your life. That's what's going to get you to Buddhahood. With Tantra, could be in this life, but certainly in some future life. So there's another way to think of bodhicitta, and that is to divide it in the way one thinks about bodhicitta. So there's number 1, there's king-like bodhicitta. I'll get enlightened first and then lead others to enlightenment. There's a shepherd-like bodhicitta. I'll make sure others achieve enlightenment, and then I'll do it so you push the flock in front of you like a shepherd would with a flock of sheep. And number 3, I want to reach enlightenment at the same time as all sentient beings. We'll go together. Gesler refers to this as ferryman-like bodhicitta. The right bodhicitta, the right approach to bodhicitta, seems to be selfish because it's the first one. I'll get enlightened first and then I'll lead others to enlightenment. But the surest way to help people is to become totally enlightened so you can actually truly help others. So while you don't want to put it off, you don't want to wait and have others achieve enlightenment in front of you. You don't want to wait and bring everybody to enlightenment at the same time. You want to get there as fast as you can for yourself. So that's enlightened self-interest. That doesn't mean you treat other people badly to get there. It just means it becomes a priority. So this is another fairly short class. Does anybody have any questions about what we just went over? Was I talking too fast for the translation? I don't know what I'd do if you said I was talking too fast. I would talk about this speed, which would get tiring quickly. So I've got a I can't see everybody's hands. How many people are interested in the death meditation? Mike, okay. So get a hold of Svetlana. Do you have her email? Can you get a hold of her? Okay. Be sure to get a hold of her this week. And now let's see, just quickly, the time change to Moscow is 9 hours. It's 10:40 my time now. So 9 hours would make it 7:40 in Moscow. 10 hours. Okay. So it's 8 o'clock your time, roughly. So if I teach a course on Saturday at midnight my time, that would be 10 your time in the morning. And if I teach it at 5 in the morning, that would be 3 in the afternoon. And then if I teach it at 10, it'll be 8. So we probably do classes. Well, I'll have to think about it. It's really a lovely course. And as I said, that had a profound effect on my life. Profound. Probably the most, next to me, meeting Geshe Michael and Lama Christie, probably one of the most profound things that happened to me. Well, I top all of that with meeting my lovely wife. Okay, let's do the dedication. By the goodness of the deed of what I've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. May the precious boding mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. By the pureness of the power of my intention, by the power of the blessings of those gone thus, by the power of the realm of emptiness, may all the goals that I may have, and all my wishes, whatever they may be, come true with perfect ease. In all my lives, may I never live apart from my perfect lamas. May I bask in the glory of the Dharma. May I fulfill perfectly every level and path and reach then quickly the place where I become myself, the one who holds the diamond. And lastly, may the merit of my life and my practice be for the benefit of all my students without exception. Okay. So Thursday, yes, Mike?
There was something that the homework mentioned about a preliminary practice. What is, it said, describe the preliminary practice that precedes the 7 cause and effect methods.
Yes. So that would be
Oh, that's the equanimity.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's maybe you're confusing the preliminaries for meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Preliminaries for meditation.
So the realization of equanimity
Right.
is what prepares us to have these feelings.
If you don't have equanimity, even the smallest amount of equanimity, you're not going to be able to look at people and feel you have to treat them with love and compassion, etc. The preliminaries to meditation, let's see. With my body, speech, and mind humbly I prostrate. I make offerings, both set out and imagined. I confess my wrong deeds for all time and rejoice in the virtues of all. Please stay until samsara ceases and turn the wheel of Dharma for us. I dedicate all virtues to the great enlightenment. So that's the short form of the preliminaries. which I'll teach you when we get to the meditation course. Well, I'll teach you during the death meditation course. So, oh, what was I going to say? Oh, the final. Okay, so class 9 is next week on Tuesday. Then we have, on Monday. Then on Thursday, we have course class 10. And class 10 is going to include the PowerPoint presentation with pictures and to help you think about memorize the 3 principal paths. And I will give you a handout with all the slide pictures before class. Then on the following Tuesday, so a week from this coming month, the following Tuesday, following Monday, we do the review. Now for the final, you know the answers, you know the questions to the final, you know the answers, and then you have to do it by memory. So what I'll do is I will go through the answers, the questions that are going to be on the final, and I'll go through the answers with you. So taking the final, I highly recommend, if you're taking this course for credit, do not put off taking the final. Get it done. Hopefully you've kept up with the homeworks and quizzes, but get the final done, because I know from experience, students that put the final off because they don't want to take the time end up not doing the final. If you want to teach this, and I hope you all do, because that's the point of the ACI courses, is to develop teachers. You need to do the homeworks, quizzes, and final. So that's my plea, to keep up, and we'll go through the answers. Okay. So any other questions? Okay. Well, we'll see you all. I keep saying Tuesday. I mean Monday and Thursday. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to teach, and we'll see you all in a few days. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for translating.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie.
Explain.
How do you pronounce your name? Natalie?
He's good.
Is it Natalie or Natalie? Natalie?
Natalia or Natalie or anything is good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Could I mention something real quick to you?
Sure.
You were talking about the migraines, and I heard about a method that if you get hot water, I mean, you might have already heard about this, but if you get hot water, like as hot as you can take, it's as hot as you can stand, and you
Mhm.
put it in like a big container, and you stick your feet in it,
Yeah.
and you put a cold compress on your head,
Hmm.
and you do that for 20 minutes, and you do that, a couple times a week or every day or something like that, it can take away the migraine. And if you add, like Chinese hot mustard,
Yeah.
so they sell Chinese hot mustard powder. And if you put like a scoop of that hot mustard powder in the water and mix it around, it's supposed to be like a vasodilator.
Yeah.
And it draws the blood away from
Yeah.
the head and towards the feet, and that can alleviate
I'll
the
mention
migraine. So I
that
just
to my
figured I'd
wife.
mention it.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. I'll mention that
absolutely.
to her. She's had migraines now for as long as I've known her. So that would be
Yeah.
an interesting, I'll mention it to her.
Yeah, that'd be great if it could help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
tip, and thank you for starting class with the mandala. And we'll get you chanting that.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
chant it next week.
Okay.
Is there a difference between for the wish for enlightenment, the Sangye Chudang Soki Choknamla, is there a difference between the types of singing? Like I noticed on the recordings, they do the call and response where the one guy does the Sangye and then everybody comes in. But then when you
Yeah.
do it, you just just recite it. Is there a difference between that?
Well, that's the call and responses. The true way to do the refuge is I would start with Sangye, and then you'd all join in. So in the group teaching, the Umze would start that way. But I don't know if we could handle all the noise if all of us were
Oh, it would be a
saying it at
nightmare.
the same time. It might. Wah!
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, the chanting is, well, I don't know, have I told you the Heart Sutra story?
I don't think.
Okay, so we were studying the first semester of Diamond Mountain University. We were given a task of doing transliteration. I won't go into the details, but bored me to tears. So I said on the critique, the questionnaire of the class, I said, let's do something, let's memorize the Heart Sutra instead. And I thought we'd do it in English. So when he came back to classes a couple months later, Lama Christie announced to the class that we're going to memorize the Heart Sutra. And I thought, yay, I already have it memorized in English. This is wonderful. She said, looking directly at me, she said, in Tibetan. Looking directly at me, because I was the one who suggested it. So I'm trying to remember if I can even start the Heart Sutra from memory. I can't now, but there was a chant to it. When you said it, you just didn't repeat it. You had to get into a cadence. And that's what's so lovely about listening to Tibetan. There's a cadence to it that's just, I find very pleasant. Chanchu Bardu Dagni Katsu Chi Daki Inso Kipe Sunam Ki Drola Pencher Sangye Du Baksho. Anyway, okay. See you all. Marina, is there going to be any problem on the class when I want to do the PowerPoint? You can I just share the screen, right? So that shouldn't be a problem. Okay, excellent. Okay,
You can do it, yes.
excellent. But when we do that on a week from today, I'll come on a little bit early and we'll start it to just make sure everything's working. Okay, bye-bye.